Good evening and welcome to another exciting episode of Weapon of Mass Instruction. Again, my name is Joe, and yes, I promised that I would give you range time next episode, but that's going to be later in the week, and I really just feel like putting myself out there on the internet like a big old man whore. So tonight, I don't think it's going to be very long. I just wanted to talk about ammo, different types of ammo. Depending on where you are, what's legal. I don't know what's legal in every state. I know what's legal in Pennsylvania is pretty much everything except for, I believe, tracer ammo, incendiary. Actually, I think tracer is okay. Incendiary and armor piercing I don't think are allowed. So, what you've noticed with me in the beginning of my videos so far is I'll clear out my pistol and I'll put all the bullets, the rounds on the table or the floor or whatever before I actually start talking about whatever it is I want to talk about. And I actually just changed from the ammo I was using to what I'm using now. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that and why I use the ammunition that I have and what its purpose is for. For what its purpose is. I speak English good talking. Anyway, what I had in my pistol for a while was Federal Hydroshocks, which is basically a hollow point round. Alright, if you notice that there's a little gap in the middle of the bullet head there, and right in the middle you've got a little bit of a rod sticking out, and I believe that is some sort of penetrator. And basically its purpose is, with regular full metal jacket ammunition, that's what you normally buy in the store. And that's pretty much the only thing they allow you to have in New Jersey and New York and stuff like that. With regular ball ammunition, you tend to have pretty much, decent penetration capabilities. But the bullet itself doesn't expand very much. When you pick it up, once it goes through its target, if it hits wood or stone or stuff like that you see at the range, you'll notice that it's got pretty much the same shape as it had before, especially the lower velocity rounds. Higher velocity rounds tend to shred themselves up a decent amount, which indicates, if it hits a soft target, it's probably not going to do quite as much as that, but it's still going to kind of spread out and cause a little bit of extra damage. But that's the thing with Full Metal Jacket. It's allowed everywhere, and it's pretty much okay at everything, but it's not perfect. But it's generally pretty cheap. I'll be using Remington ammunition, UMC. It's probably, I'd say it's a pretty decent brand. It's pretty easy to get a hold of around here. I haven't tried anything crazy yet. Like I heard Fuyoshi ammo is really bad for stuff like Bursa. And the reason being apparently it's got a rougher edge on the shell casings, which actually prevents the rounds from feeding properly. So those are different things that you got to consider, regardless of what type of ammunition you're going to load and why you're going to load it. If you've got ammo that doesn't feed right, obviously you shouldn't use it, because if you have to defend yourself, you're going to die when it jams. But Remington, I haven't had any trouble with it, other than the fact that I'll get misfeeds from me limp wristing my pistol. That's a bad habit of mine. I actually mentioned that in my one of my earlier episodes. So yeah, it's like I said, it's pretty cheap. It doesn't cause a whole lot of damage. It's a 380. You're not talking about a whole lot of damage to begin with. So that's pretty much just what I use for range time, and it'll be backup ammo for like the zombie apocalypse. When I run out of regular ammunition, I'll probably switch to that, or I might just switch right off the bat, because when you're killing zombies, you're going for headshots anyway, right? But no, in all seriousness, what I load in my pistol is, like I said, hollow points. These Hydroshocks are there. Basically they're pretty good from what I heard. Hollow points, the way they're designed, they're supposed to expand a little bit more than regular ball ammunition or Full Metal Jacket, you might call it. And basically when it expands, you lose velocity, you lose penetration capability, alright, but you also gain a lot of stopping power on an unarmored target. So it's no good if, the bad guy is wearing a flak jacket. That hollow point is probably going to embed itself in the freaking, in the Kevlar. Or if he's wearing sappy plates, it might knock him on his ass, but it's going to do absolutely no damage to him. with a straight up torso shot. But that's what that little penetrator is there for. It's not armor piercing, but let's say you're shooting hollow point at somebody who's wearing some thicker clothing. You know, maybe it's getting towards winter months and it's getting a little bit colder, maybe a cold day, and you just, you know, somebody's shooting at you, they've got their parka on or something like that. Thick clothing, especially leather, from what I heard, can actually slow down and even stop bullets, especially those hollow points. You know, when you're talking about weaker calibers, 32, 25, or 380 ACP, you don't really have a lot of velocity or kinetic energy to start with. So basically, you've got to be able to spare everything you've got. And it would sure suck to shoot 7 rounds at a bad guy, reload 7 more, and find out that all of your ammo is just stuck in his freaking parka, you know? So that's what I was using later in the summer and going into the towards the winter months, because people aren't going to be wearing that much heavy clothing. So the hollow point was going to work as advertised, and even if somebody was wearing some layers, I'd still cause a little bit of penetration and damage if I had to. What I recently switched over to, and I'm sure you already saw it from the box I'm using to carry my other ammo when I'm not loading it, is I switched over to Hornady Critical Defense. And this, again, I haven't been able to actually see what it does, but I've heard this is some pretty good stuff too. I've shot Hornady ammo before through several different firearms, knowing what kind of recoil you're in for. Generally speaking, recoil is a fairly good indicator of how much power you've got behind that shot. Hornady loads are actually hotter than regular loads, and I'm not exactly sure how or why that works. I heard that the lighter the bullet is, the more gunpowder it needs compared to a heavier bullet in the same casing, simply because it goes a little bit faster as that gas expands, so it needs more explosive potential to keep that bullet going. But yeah, for whatever reason, Hornady ammo kicks a little bit harder than regular ball ammo or other hollow points, from what I've actually noticed. And the thing about this critical defense stuff is you'll notice that there's this little red thing in the middle. It's actually a hollow point round, all right, and you can see the little edges there, and basically, you know, that's the hollow point at work. It's going to separate out and flower and still cause a lot of damage. That little red thing in the middle is, you can actually feel it. It's a little bit of like sort of rubber plastic. It's like kind of a mix between the two, and it's supposed to be there to make the round act like ball ammunition going through the first layer of clothing, and then only then it'll separate out, and then the rest of the round will act like regular hollow point. So what it does is it allows you to shoot at somebody wearing heavy clothing, and it'll actually penetrate and then start to flower like regular hollow point, and then cause that serious massive damage. Another nice thing about hollow point too is it bleeds off that velocity a lot quicker than ball ammo. You're less likely to have your shot go through a person and actually impact on something else, like shooting a Remington. It's not a very high velocity load. I heard there's actually some hotter loads out there in terms of ball ammo, but I guess that gets expensive too. But even so, even shooting a 380, if somebody was attacking me and there was somebody innocent behind them, you know, I'm not always going to have time to, you know, step to the side, maybe change that angle of fire a little bit. So it's better to have that hollow point where it's not as likely to go through the guy and hit somebody with lethal force behind them. And that's pretty much what I got. You know, I like the way it feeds. And without actually even firing it, what you can do to test that is you can load up a magazine full of whatever ammo you think you might want to load. And of course, you're going to have to buy it first. And if it doesn't work out for you, then you're just going to have to shoot it off and get rid of it. But whatever. I'll load it up and I'll actually feed it, and I'll just work that action. And just by working that action, I'll see whether I had any issues feeding it or ejecting it. And that basically tells me whether it's good to use. That's just a little tidbit, little thing you can do to help you out before you actually have to shoot. I definitely recommend whatever you end up thinking is a good idea, actually shoot some ammo. At least 1, 2, 3 magazines. If you can afford it, go for a full box of it, you know, just so you know what it's going to do to your pistol after a couple of shots, you know. Because there's some stuff out there that I don't think I'd ever even want to touch, like, you know, steel-cased ammunition. I've heard bad stuff about that, and I really just don't want to test that out, even though it's cheaper. I'd rather stick with brass or chrome, because I already know it's going to work. You know, I don't want to run the risk of maybe one day I shoot a little bit too much at a bad guy, and then the next round causes the weapon to jam, and that's going to be bad news. Right here, I know I'll be able to get a good 50 rounds off plus before my gun starts jamming up on me, you know. And the nice things too about both of these brands of ammunition that I'm using to load in my gun is I really don't have to worry about that whole limp wristing problem. You know, I was able to get a whole magazine off with each of them with no problems whatsoever, whereas when I tested my gun with the Remington and other stuff, with the regular ball ammo, it just didn't pack enough punch to force that slide back and then forward while I was limp wristing. And so I'm going to work on that. I'm going to try to fix that problem. But in the meantime, if somebody starts shooting at me and I have to shoot back, I don't have to worry about it being a problem. That's pretty much all I got for tonight. Like I said, next time it should be range time. That'll be on Wednesday or Thursday. And then after that, I'll either get a hold of some sort of Ricky Recon camera, or I'll figure out a way to strap my little phone onto myself. And I'd like to show you guys and gals a little bit about room clearing and angles of fire, your fatal frontal, stuff like that. Different little things that they taught me in the Marine Corps when they were trying to teach me how to kill bad guys, and at the same time it's going to help you defend yourself in your home. And that's, you know, it's going to be some good stuff. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you're enjoying what you see so far, and I really hope you enjoy my range time. And I just hope this all works out. Thank you all for watching. Again, my name is Joe, and I am a weapon of mass instruction.